Hello, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. This is episode 25 of Flips, Flaps, and Folds. And today I am going to show you another way to stack or layer pockets out of book page. In previous videos, we did a couple different ways. We used book page here to do a layered stack where you flip them up. And then we used book page to angle pockets and layer them on top of each other consecutively. And then we took just a straight approach using book page with a bit of washi or just folded over at the top to make layered pockets or stacked pockets. This is just another way to make stacked pockets. And I originally did this to show some different paper clips and different ways to include paper clips in journals. But I realized that we hadn't covered, or I hadn't covered, stacking pockets of book page. And there's probably way more, but there's three ways that I generally consider when I'm doing this. And I'm going to show you really quickly all three. But also I'm going to stop here for just a moment. When you're doing these, I highly encourage you to fold over the top of whatever paper you're using. Even if it's a good sturdy paper, fold it over just because it makes your edge more sturdy. You can see here with this Junior Latin Reader that I didn't. And here, I'll zoom in just for a sec. I had to end up putting tape on that because it tears. And that's what was my tip for you. You make your top of your pocket much sturdier if you fold it once or even twice before you put it down. Now, let me see if I can, I'm trying to zoom back out. There you go, so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, there are essentially three ways that I use to do this. The first way is just with random book page and double-sided tape, and I glue them down to the page. This is my least favorite way, and I'll tell you why. You can cut it to any size, but it just gives you an entirely different look to the pockets. They're not folded, they're just cut to the appropriate size, and they're stuck down to the page. One, they're not super sturdy, though these are not super old book page, so they're sturdy enough. But it kind of gives you, flat is good when we're talking junk journals, but it doesn't delineate the pockets. Now, granted, I didn't ink these, so that's part of the issue. But even when I just take a piece and cut it to size and glue it directly down or tape it directly down onto the page, I still fold over the tops. Just again, because the tops are going to get the most wear when you put your pockets, when you put your tags or pictures or paper or whatever you're putting in and out. So this is one way. You cut it to whatever your size you want. You can do 2, 3, 4, 5, however many pockets you like. And you just glue it down to the back of your page. The way I've done it here, and probably my favorite way for the least amount of bulk, is, let's see. No, these are all the envelope ones. Sorry. That's way number 3. Here it is. Way number 2. You take your page, or your paper, whatever you want, and you fold it to size. And what I mean by that is you've got your piece and you've got it a rectangle, and then you fold the edges in. You fold the top down and glue it. You fold the edges in and you fold the bottom up. And then when you glue it to your page, you are simply gluing the flap that you've created, or gusset if you want. And it looks like this in your book. It's flat to your page, but there's just a little bit of give there. It doesn't look like it's such a, I'm going to try to zoom that in. It just gives it a little bit different finish than gluing it directly onto the page does. Now, granted, this is inked and this is not. But if you're looking at both of these, you've got a different profile. It doesn't add much bulk to the page, but it adds stability and it adds kind of a smoother look. I guess that's the best way to put it. And I'm going to try to zoom back out again. Okay. And then the third way is the way I highly recommend if you're using old book page or more fragile paper. And that is you're going to glue your piece of paper to the top of an envelope. So you've got scrap envelopes. We've all got them, leftovers from mail and such. And my suggestion with the older fragile paper is just to glue it directly on top of your envelope piece. Now, your envelopes are formatted one way or the other, but you can glue that pocket closed and then snip it wherever you want it to open ultimately. A tip on this that I have found, when I glue book page directly on top of where all the creases are in the envelopes, then that shows through on the front because the page is so thin. So my suggestion would be use the area that you've glued down or your flaps for the back and glue your book page to the front, simply because it's smoother and it'll give you a more smooth finished effect and you won't see any of those lines or bumps through. Another tip I've got for this one is, like, this is really old, 150-plus-year-old Belgian or German print from a book that had been torn apart. I didn't tear this one apart. And my suggestion with this is, again, I used a piece of envelope, but rather than cutting off the edge flush to the edge, I wrapped it around a little bit and glued it down. It's super thin paper, so that's not going to add a notable bulk, but it's going to increase the stability of this perfectly. Because the paper is so thin, it tears easily, and if I were to cut it here, anytime something rubbed against the page, it would fold up. Whereas here, it's just got a little bit more durability. So if you're going the method where you're gluing your book page directly on an envelope and you're working with old page, I encourage you to roll it around the sides, and you can do the same thing at the top. You can roll it around and tuck it in the top here as well. And again, that just gives you a little bit different look. Now, it is a thicker profile than, let's see, which one did I cut for the top? Okay, it is a thicker profile than the way I've done in the book here, but it's a great option for however you want to lay it, for when you've got old book page. And it's thick without being too thick. And I would just use glue stick and glue this down to my envelope wherever I wanted it to go. And I've got, again, the 3 pockets or however many pockets I want. And this is the way I most commonly do, and that's the way I'm going to show you how to fold. These others are just gluing down and folding over the top, of course, and then just gluing down. But this particular way, and the way I do it is this. I will, when I'm layering pockets, I try really hard to make sure I vary the colors and the fonts, the sizes of the fonts. Like, this is small dictionary, and this is a Latin reader, and this is a typing book, and this is an old map chart. And actually, I'd probably put that right there because I really like the way that looks. But you can see the colors are a little bit different, and the size of the fonts are a little bit different, and the fonts themselves are a little bit different. And that just creates more interest in what you're looking at. In fact, I do like that, and I probably will glue that right there. Even though it's a different kind. This is a bag, but it's a super thin painter's type bag, and it is not going to add substantially to this already chunky journal. So really thin, and I'll put that right there, and I'm good to go. But the way I do this, and I'm sure there's more ways than I do it. Something to think about too. When I was pulling out book pages for this, this is just a really old book, and you can see it's got the cool brown edges and such. But at the very top, it says at Prince Edward Island. So this would work in any journal I wanted to put it in, but I'm going to specifically save this for an Anne of Green Gables journal, simply because the wording lends itself to that. Even though the rest of it has nothing to do with Anne of Green Gables, it talks about Prince Edward Island. So just something to be mindful of when you're choosing your paper. Okay, here we go. This is the Greg shorthand, and this one's cool because it's non-specific and it goes with anything. So when I'm doing this, 1, I want to think about my total size, but 2, the very first step that I do generally is decide which I want to be my front, and then I'll roll it down. Now, if you're using super thin book page, roll it down twice. It will still work, and it'll work well. And it won't add too much bulk, but it'll greatly increase the value of your or the integrity, I guess I should say, the integrity of the top of your pocket. All right, so I've glued that down. Okay, step 1. My second step is to roll in the sides, and I will you can use a scoreboard, absolutely, if you want to make sure they're perfectly straight, but honestly, I haven't found it to be overly necessary. I'll fold in the side, and I'll fold in the side, and again, let's say I want this one to be 3.5 inches, so I'll fold it until I'll use my gauge. Oh, look, that's close to 3.5 inches. And with these pockets, unless you've got something specific that you're putting in them, they don't have to be perfect. And then I will come, I need the really big scissors. I'll come and I'll cut this corner off where you can see where those fold lines are. Shoot, I'm going to turn that light off. I was trying to get more light for you, but it's creating a glare. So I'm just going to cut off this top corner because I don't want the extra bulk in my flap. So I'm just going to come in and cut off that top corner. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to come in and cut off that top corner. I don't want the extra bulk, and I don't want it to show profile-wise. When I glue this down, I don't want to see that at the top. All right, so I've got my sides done, and then I'm going to go into the bottom because this is a directional, I mean, words are generally directional. And I'm going to go down into the bottom, and then this time, instead of just taking off that top, I'm going to take off that entire corner, and I'll eliminate some bulk, and I'll allow a nice fold for that. And it doesn't have to be straight, and it doesn't have to be perfect because those pieces aren't going to show. So I'll do it like this, and you can see here where I folded that down, I'll just come in and clip that off as well. Okay, and now what I do is I will layer my pockets. I'll do all my pockets first, however many I want, and I'll layer them where I want them to go, make sure my sizes are correct. And then I'm going to come in and put glue on just the flaps or the gussets. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put the glue down, and I am going to layer my pocket just like that. And that gives you the look that we had in the book. All right, there you go. Stacked pockets another way. Thank you for watching, and happy creating.